This is Dr. C. We're going to be talking about thread creation via the Runnable Interface. Now, the Runnable Interface is available because, as you know, in Java you can only inherit from one class. So if you do the subclassing from thread strategy, then you're limiting your inheritability for other classes. So a Java class can implement many different interfaces, and so the Runnable Interface, as you might guess, has one method called run, and that's where you would put the code that you want to have run in a separate thread. So what we've done here is we've set up a separate class called sayName that implements Runnable. There's the run method, and it's again used to simply store an internal name, and its run method will simply print that name out a certain number of times. So when working with the Runnable Interface, it's actually a two-step process. We have to create the instance of our class, in this case sayName, passing it a parameter, and then we have to create a new thread instance. In this case, we pass the object reference of our class to the constructor of new thread, and so in this way there is an instance of the thread class that knows about the existence of this other class that has the Runnable Interface, and this lets everything work correctly. Now what we do then is we say to the thread instance start, and ultimately that will trigger the run method of our Runnable Interface object. So here we see a short program that creates two instances of the sayName class, and then we create a new thread instance, passing it the object reference to the class we created, to our two sayName classes, say1 and say2. We tell both threads to start, and the output is going to be some interleaving of the activity from each of those separate threads. Again, the important thing to remember when working with threads is the order that you write threaded code is not necessarily the order that you're going to see when you execute your program. So remember, the operating system is in charge. It gets to say who runs. When you say thread 1, for example, start, all that really does is it puts those threads in the runnable pool. Does not begin their execution. They become ready for execution. It's up to the operating system to actually select and stop the threads at the whim of the operating system. So just to summarize our thread creation, you're always going to have an instance of thread. Sometimes that instance can be related to a subclass of the class thread, or you're going to have a class that implements the Runnable Interface, and you'll be passing a reference to that class to the new thread constructor. In both cases, you call start, and that ultimately triggers run, which places your threads in the runnable pool. And again, selection execution is based on the underlying scheduler that's part of whatever operating system running on.